There are new developments in the fight to protect the rights of thousands of America's veterans. A federal appeals court now threatening sanctions against the Department of Veterans Affairs. A judge saying yesterday that the VA is not living up to its word by failing to help thousands of veterans challenge denials of benefits they say they need. Fox's Douglas Kennedy is live in our New York City newsroom with more. Hi, Doug.
Hey, Allison. Yet nearly 20,000 U.S. veterans died last year waiting for the Department of Veterans Affairs to decide on their benefits. Now, a circuit court judge is taking the federal agency to task for making it more difficult for veterans to receive their benefits. Judge Jay Plager of the U.S. Court of Appeals issued an order yesterday blasting the VA for failing to live up to its commitments. Judge Plager called the VA's actions troubling and even threatened sanctions against VA officials. It seems that sanctions may be needed to motivate VA in the future, the judge wrote in a 13-page order that eviscerated the agency. David Hobson is from the group that brought the federal lawsuit that prompted the opinion.
The judge came out and ruled in our favor, saying that VA cannot proceed in this fashion, that they were circumventing the rights of veterans.
In a statement, the VA did not go into details about the order, but says it's working with the Justice Department to form a response. Fox News has been covering the story of the VA backlog for months, speaking with veterans and their advocates, all calling the benefits backlog a disgrace.
We see claims sent in by veterans every day where VA makes very simple mistakes. There's no need for the government to be making these errors, forcing veterans to appeal their claims and then wait years and years for VA to fix something that should have never been a problem in the first place.
Veterans advocates across the country are hoping yesterday's court order will spur the VA to help vets rather than fight them, Allison. That's it from here. Back to you.
All right, Douglas Kennedy, thanks so much for that explanation. So joining us now to talk about all of this is Pete Hegseth. He's the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America. Hi, Pete.
Hi, Allison.
Okay, 900,000 backlogged benefits claims right now, and they estimate that by the end of this month, we could be up to 1 million. You just heard Douglas Kennedy's piece and his research into this. Is it really just because the VA is making some simple, silly mistakes?
It's a bureaucratic nightmare. It is a classic example of a dysfunctional bureaucracy not capable of delivering what it says it's going to do. And it's not an issue of funding. The VA's gotten $25 billion more worth of funding during this administration, yet it went from a backlog that was 300,000, a pending claims backlog of 300,000, to what will be projected to be 1 million waiting in line for their claims to be processed. It takes on average 270 days for a claim to be processed. If you're in LA, that's 619 days, and if you are in New York City, you're probably waiting 2 years to hear back successful completion of. It's just dysfunctional bureaucracy stuck in the 20th century, pencil and paper bureaucracy, not able to deliver to the needs of 21st century veterans and vets of all generations.
It's really shocking. I mean, this is the very organization that is supposed to be helping and protecting our returning veterans. So why isn't this a more streamlined process?
Well, I'll tell you, we use a phrase sometimes in the military and everywhere, you know, it's like a self-licking ice cream cone. It's very good at feeding itself. It's very good at meeting its own needs. It throws great lavish conferences. It knows how to process lots of paperwork, but not necessarily quickly. But it doesn't know how to meet the needs of veterans in a timely manner. You know, they're still asking for, like I said, hard paperwork through fax machines. My goodness, when's the last time I used a fax machine? Or anyone coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan? You can't send it in over email. Nothing's digital. So it's a completely opaque process that you can't fundamentally understand from the outside. So you just have to sit and wait, call once a week, and hope somebody picks up the phone and your file doesn't get lost. I mean, there was a floor in the VA where the literal weight of the paperwork was so great that it made it structurally unsound. This is just government bureaucracy run amok, and we got to look for some really, you know, whether it's tips from the private sector to streamline, transform the VA bureaucracy to make it responsive to needs.
Oh my gosh, this is Exhibit A of just red tape. But it seems like there is now a groundswell of people who are trying to turn this around. There was a meeting in the White House just this week to address this big problem of this backlog. It has bipartisan support, one of the few issues, as you know, to have bipartisan support. And there is now a petition of 36,000 signatures that are trying to get the attention of someone in Washington. Who could turn this intractable problem around?
Well, it's going to take political courage. It's got to start at the top. I mean, this president had, from day one, he was going to attack and address this problem. And it's done nothing but go in the other direction, despite a lot of rhetoric and a lot of speeches and saying a lot of promises about what he was going to do for military families. But there's been no accountability, none. One of the chairs of the Vets Committee called for the woman in charge of this backlog to resign. That hasn't happened. I mean, in the military, if you're given a task and you don't get it done, you're fired. You're gone. For some reason in the VA, if you don't meet the needs, well, we should just give you more time because, you know, I know you've got great intentions. Good intentions are not good enough. It's got to be results, and we got to call on the president to be bold in his actions to fix this problem.
In fact, one veteran, here's how one veteran phrased it, says that this backlog is absolutely, quote, a stain on the national soul. These heroes end up fighting against their own government for benefits when they come back home. Pete Hegseth, thanks so much for talking to us about this. Let's hope it gets some attention.
Absolutely. Thanks, Allison.